Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. I'm sorry. I saw that the cup was 2 cups, so I had to take a little break. I'm with you here. Let's continue together. Yeah, we talked in detail about flipped learning, and we also discussed collaborative learning in depth. All right, so we covered some things, and implicitly, by God, we talked about the discussion and the different chapters, but we'll just talk about them. Let's talk about something called the teaching contract strategy. Of course, this strategy aims to reconcile, meaning the goal here is to align the needs of learners with the appropriate method or strategy that I'm using to achieve the educational or training goals we have. So its foundation is a contract or an agreement. So it's a contract agreement, right? A mutual agreement between the needs of the learners and the appropriate way to achieve the goals. So there's an agreement here between the parties involved in this agreement or among the parties who are choosing. So it's a contract agreement, right? A mutual agreement between the needs of the learners and the appropriate way to achieve the goals. So there's an agreement here between the parties involved in this agreement or among the parties who are choosing the strategy and its components and dimensions involve the learner and the teacher or teaching staff. You, a professor, and the student are parties. You both are in a dilemma about which strategies to use. You have a pattern called learning contracts, a contract between professor. The agreement is aimed at meeting the needs of the learners, and they have specific needs. This method meets their needs, and it is suitable for educational goals. So what do you write in it? It includes a time frame for learning, forms of assessment, and the student, it describes the agreement to meet the needs of the learners, and they have specific needs. It meets their needs, and it achieves the educational goals. What do you write in it? It includes a time frame for learning, assessments. Based on that, you start working on this agreement that exists between you. You specify what? You specify the learning style. You say, we're going to learn this part through flipped learning. The teacher will help us with this part. This part could involve discussion, and the learning style here could be self-directed, or it could be a lecture style. Teachers plan content and assessments within a set time. You agree on learning styles like flipped or self-directed, aligning teaching goals with learning needs. This defines teaching contracts. Based on that, you start working on this agreement that exists between you, where you specify what? You specify the learning style. You say, we're going to learn this part through flipped learning. The teacher will help us with this part. This part could involve discussion, and the learning style here could be self-directed, or it could be a lecture style. In this agreement between the teacher and the learner, which aims to reconcile needs and achieve goals, learning styles are chosen for all lessons and study units, the time frame that suits teaching, and the forms of assessment that the teacher wants to use to achieve the required educational goals. That's the essence of teaching contracts. Of course, thank you, Dr. Abdullah. I just saw that I worked on the presentation. Thank you. Salama. Of course, this is in brief, and therefore it is a philosophy based on agreement, meaning in flipped learning, I demand a site. The student is more than a part of the educational process. They choose the strategy. Learning contracts are a strategy where the student helps create them. Flipped learning is teacher-led and student follows. They don't change it as it's the learning philosophy and institutional strategy. Learning can be collaborative or virtual. I attended a 35-day training over 3 months. Sessions were thrice weekly, 3 hours each, totaling 9 hours. The philosophy of learning here is based on flipped learning, with options for collaborative or virtual classrooms. I attended a training 2 years ago that lasted 35 days over 3 months, with sessions 3 times a week, each lasting 3 hours, totaling about 9 hours weekly. It was a full diploma based solely on virtual classrooms, focusing on discussion and strategy. Other places might offer videos and weekly virtual classes for conclusions. Another method is learning contracts, where the professor asks, what's the best method for you? Here's the content, and we have several styles to teach you. Let's agree on what suits you. With a total number of hours that's really large, I mean it's a full diploma, and it's solely based on virtual classrooms. They were sitting there discussing and working on this strategy they used in training. Other places might tell you, no, take the videos, and we have virtual classes that we offer you at the end of each week, so you can get the conclusion for that training week. Now there's a third way, which is learning contracts. They gather around me, The teacher asks, "What's best for you?" I say, "I love videos, not just text." They say, "All right, we'll provide educational videos." I say, "Audio clips are great for resting my eyes. They provide all the materials to meet my needs and achieve goals." This topic is like a contract, not just written. I tell them honestly, I love videos. Don't just give me a lot of text to read. I'm a guy who loves videos. I say, "All right, we'll provide you educational videos." I also mentioned that I like things written down, but maybe I don't prefer it that way. They said, "Okay." I told them, "If you have audio clips, that would be great because I like to rest my eyes." All right. They provide me with all the learning materials that achieve the goals they want. And they provide me with the styles that meet my needs, traits, and personality so we can achieve the goals together. This topic is like a contract. Some people go further in describing it and say it's a written contract, but it's not just about a written contract. Is the agreement usually written? Is that clear? So, learning here is participating in the strategy, right? Does anyone have any questions, or should I move on to the discussion? This discussion is great and we love it, right? Someone respond, 1 or 2 people, that would be enough. All right, let's wrap up the learning contracts. It's a strategy where the learner participates in choosing it, and it's very clear. Thank you all very much. Now, I'll move on to discussion as a strategy we have. The discussion strategy is actually considered one of the biggest or most commonly used learning strategies, especially in e-learning. This discussion can be synchronous or asynchronous. This discussion can take place through discussion forums within the online platforms and can be asynchronous. It can also happen in virtual classrooms and be synchronous. So, online discussion is one of the most important ways to interact within the electronic learning management system, which I explained the term for in the first slide. What kind of discussion do you allow? You allow the exchange of ideas in one context. Of course, you are in the forum and discussing an event topic. Let's say the topic is about the coronavirus. Students engage in discussions. I think the virus is this or that. No, it's actually like this. Discussions occur in the forum with people replying to each other. You might be asleep while others discuss. The discussion continues, sharing thoughts, students discussing the virus, its spread, and the situation. There's an exchange of ideas among learners, encouraging idea sharing, virtual classrooms and tools for discussion. The topic is solved between them. Here there is discussion and exchange of ideas here between the trainees or learners and each other. The teacher's role here is also facilitating and allowing them to contribute their ideas, to present their ideas and contribute ideas and exchange them with others. Of course, this is something very important. Of course, I explained. It can be synchronous or asynchronous, and we have that available. Let me show you the virtual classrooms and discussion tools. In a course like communication skills, there are discussion forums. You can listen to discussions. These are asynchronous, as mentioned. Virtual classrooms allow synchronous discussions. Discussions like those in Blackboard encourage critical thinking and interaction. Blackboard, though unrelated to us, is a system for student engagement. It advises teachers to create discussions around lessons. Here, you can listen to discussions. What is the strategy? These are asynchronous discussions mentioned earlier. Virtual classrooms should allow synchronous discussions. Originally, when discussing products, even in Blackboard, their explanations are unclear. There's a help section, but I'm unsure. Discussions exist. Blackboard says they encourage critical thinking and interaction. Discussion forums are great, right, doctor? Perfect. There's always a help section, but I'm not sure. The discussions are there. Look at what Blackboard says. It says discussions are a great way to encourage. This is Blackboard, which is unrelated to us. It's a system to promote critical thinking and interaction. This is Blackboard, telling me as a teacher to create discussions and let the students contribute their ideas, explore topics, and refine content. So of course, discussion forums are great, right, doctor? Right, doctor? Perfect. So the course or its content in general is presented through discussion forums, and let the students contribute their ideas, gather topics, search for content, and refine the course. This is Blackboard talking to me about the feature of discussion forums without me having to do anything. So of course, discussion forums are great, right, doctor? Right, doctor? Perfect. Your name is visible, so you don't need to write it down. It's already written here. Don't worry, doctor. Your name is clear. So the preparation is done. Consider it done, and your name is registered. Okay? The preparation isn't taken from the chat or from the discussion group. It's usually taken from the record. So rest assured that everything is fine. Things are going well. Let's continue with strategies. I discussed the discussion strategy and now move to collaborative learning. I've explained it before, focusing on small groups. These groups work on tasks, share ideas, and exchange thoughts. References differentiate sharing and collaborating. Sharing complements each other, while collaboration involves helping on the same parts. This part is explained. Don't mention self-directed learning, which relies on learners. I explained at the start that it's about small groups. These groups, when I move to the presentation, yes, I explained it. It's about groups, working on a task, sharing ideas, and exchanging thoughts. References note the difference between sharing and collaborating. Sharing means complementing each other, while collaboration involves helping each other in the same areas. I consider this explained. There's no issue for me. Don't mention self-directed learning, a strategy relying on learners' curiosity and desire. The teacher sets guidelines and the trainee chooses, or the trainer presents learning methods. Sharing means they complement each other. Collaboration means they complement each other on different topics. Each person has a role. Collaboration means they all help each other in the same areas. Avoid self-directed learning, a strategy relying on learners. Self-directed learning relies on learners' curiosity and desire. The teacher sets guidelines and the trainee chooses, or the trainer presents methods, offering paths or strategies suitable for learning. Self-directed learning relies on the learner's curiosity and desire to learn. The teacher can set some guidelines and the trainee chooses one of them, or the trainer presents several learning methods to the trainee, or the teacher offers the student a number of ways to learn, providing them with a learning path or a learning strategy, a second strategy, a third strategy, or we can say the most suitable paths for learning. Here, it tells you this is a learning path, and this path is where the student is self-directed. He gives him a learning path or a learning strategy, a second strategy, third strategy, or we can say the most suitable paths for learning. This is a self-directed learning path. Teachers offer multiple paths and learners choose the one that fits their needs, boosting their desire to learn. Here, the teacher gave me one path to learning, he gave me two paths to learning, he gave me three paths, so the learner chooses the path that suits him, and his needs and his desire to learn increases. And that's why it's called self-directed learning, meaning the learner is the one who chose their path, their way, and their strategy, among several paths provided by the teacher. This comparison is a feature present in these strategies that might not be found in other strategies because it relies on, yes, diversity relies on considering the individual differences among learners in a way that's different from flipped learning. In self-directed learning, the line or method that the teacher defines or suggests, let me say, suggests here, not dictates, because the student is the one who chooses. So here, the teacher suggests. You see the words I'm using? I'm careful with my wording. The teacher suggests methods or guidelines. If students use them, they can start their learning path. What's the advantage of self-directed learning? It helps learners plan, perform, and evaluate their education. The student's path is self-directed. Let's talk quickly. We have half an hour until sunset, and I want to finish the strategies before then. We'll finish this training before slide 50, but this is the most important slide. If the training ends after this, I'll be satisfied because it's the core of the training. The will and ability to plan, perform, and evaluate his teaching, educational process, or study unit, the man or student uses this resource based on his own self-direction or personal orientation. Okay, let's talk really quickly because sunset is in half an hour. I want to finish the strategies at least before sunset. By the way, regarding this training, we will finish it before we reach slide 50, but this is the most important slide. This is the most important slide in the whole topic. If the training finishes after I explain it, I'll be satisfied because this is considered the core or the center of the training. And we held the training for this reason. But it's a huge training. We could have made a big training that fits over 2 or 3 days, but I'm rushing through it to give you more content and a larger scope in this training. But it's just a coincidence. We could have done a big training that fits over 2 or 3 days, but I'm rushing through it to give you more content and a larger scope in this training.